But, Madam President, the amendment I have at the desk is about a very important issue. Before I explain what it is, let me say that I strongly support the underlying bill. And I want to compliment Senator Cornyn and others who have worked on a bipartisan basis on this bill. And I certainly look forward to supporting this bill, irrespective of how the vote goes on my amendment. But I obviously hope my amendment is adopted in the context of this bill. Clearly, Madam President, this issue of human trafficking is a very serious one. It takes many, many forms, all of them ugly. One form is a phenomenon I'm going to talk about today, the issue of birth tourism and trafficking in women and families who want to get into this country in order to physically have their children in this country, because present policy recognizes those children immediately as U.S. citizens simply because they're born in this country. This phenomenon of birth tourism is a very, very real one, and it often puts these birth mothers and families in very dangerous situations, quite frankly, at the hands of human smugglers or the equivalent. And, Madam President, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record 2 news reports that illustrate this. The first, an article entitled "No Vacancy at California Birth Hotels," that underscore some of the abuses and horrendous conditions that go about as a result of this. And the second, from the Washington Post, a different article entitled "Inside the Shadowy World of Birth Tourism at Maternity Hotels."
Is there an objection? Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Recently, Madam President, the Obama administration conducted a raid on some of these shadowy operations. I compliment them for doing that. There needs to be a crackdown on these operations. But, Madam President, the ultimate crackdown, the ultimate solution is to change the policy of the federal government that recognizes these children immediately as U.S. citizens simply because they're physically born in this country, even though both of their parents are here illegally. No parent is here under any sort of legal status. And that's the ultimate response and the ultimate solution that we need, Madam President. And that's what my amendment that I will call up as soon as that is allowed and get a vote on is about. My amendment would change present practice and policy, present law, to say that only somebody born in this country who has at least one parent who is a U.S. citizen, a legal green card holder, or a serving member of the United States military immediately gets that recognition as a U.S. citizen. Now, as I suggested, Madam President, this issue and this practice, including this shadowy world of birth tourism and human smuggling, is a very serious issue, in fact, an exploding one, as these recent cases in the press have brought to light. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, each year about 300,000 to 400,000 children are born to illegal aliens in the United States. And under our present practice, all of them are immediately recognized as U.S. citizens. This is a huge magnet for more crossings, illegal crossings into our country, often at the hands of very dangerous people. Birthright Citizenship draws women from Mexico and Central America to make that dangerous trek north, often in the hands of coyotes and drug cartels. These women put their lives into the hands of criminal gangs with a demonstrated penchant for sexual assault and sex trafficking. In addition, there is a huge business of birth tourism, including those that market to women and families in China. As I mentioned, federal agents on Tuesday, March 3rd, broke up an alleged birth tourism ring in Southern California, raiding several homes and apartment complexes where pregnant Chinese women on fraudulent visas in some cases paid up to $80,000 so their babies would be born here. DHS and IRS investigators were seeking evidence and statements against those alleged in the scheme. Besides visa fraud, authorities are looking into possible tax and money laundering charges. And as I referred to the news reports that are now part of the record, this involves, in some cases, horrendous conditions and a very shadowy world in terms of this so-called birth tourism. Madam President, the ultimate solution to this is to not allow this enormous magnet for illegal crossings, often at the hands of very dangerous people, to continue by not recognizing everyone who is simply born here in the United States to be a citizen of the United States because of this fact alone. And again, that is what my amendment would do. That is far more effective than any set of raids on these operations, on any enforcement provisions. Now, Madam President, if we move toward this, we would be in the company of the huge majority of countries in the world. Of advanced economies, only Canada and the United States grant automatic citizenship to children born to illegal aliens. No European country does that. No other advanced industrialized country does that, nor should we. It is, as I suggested, a huge magnet for more and more illegal crossings, and my amendment would fix that. Now, Madam President, some people will argue that this is not possible with a statutory change. This is embedded in the United States Constitution through the 14th Amendment, and any change would have to be a constitutional amendment. I believe that is not the case and is a result of a fundamental misunderstanding of the Constitution in this regard, including the 14th Amendment. You know, the 14th Amendment does not say that all persons born in the U.S. are citizens, period, of end of story. If you look at the precise language, it's very instructive. It states that citizenship extends to, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, close quote, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That latter phrase was included because it was included to mean something, and its original meaning clearly refers to the political allegiance of an individual and the jurisdiction that a foreign government has over that person. That's exactly why American Indians and their children were not immediately recognized as U.S. citizens simply because of their birth in this country. There was actually litigation about that going directly to this language of the 14th Amendment. And the courts decided no. The fact that these American Indian children were born in the United States in and of itself did not make them U.S. citizens because, quote, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, close quote, had a meaning. It meant that these children could not be subject to any other governmental or quasi-governmental authority, and an American Indian tribe was such an authority. And so because of that litigation, because of that interpretation, in order for those American Indian children to be recognized as American citizens, it actually took specific congressional action, Congress passing the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. I believe that goes directly to this issue that this practice is not embedded in the Constitution and in the 14th Amendment. And so that allows the statutory fix that my language would offer. Now, Madam President, Senator Harry Reid, the minority leader, actually introduced a bill in 1993 titled the Immigration Stabilization Act, which included nearly identical language to my amendment and standalone bill. This solution, this language, has broad support in the country, including broad bipartisan support. In his bill, now that's going back a ways, but in his bill, it stated, quote, "In the exercise of its powers under Section 5 of the 14th Article of the Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, the Congress has determined and hereby declares that any person born after the date of enactment of this title to a mother who is neither a citizen of the United States nor admitted to the United States as a lawful permanent resident will not be a U.S. citizen." And so there we have language from a leading Democratic member that goes to the same issue. There is broad bipartisan support, not just in the Congress, but in the country for this fix, particularly in the context of these huge illegal alien flows into the country. I believe Americans recognize that we cannot continue to adopt and recognize this policy. It is an enormous magnet for the continuing flows of illegal aliens into the country. It brings up industries like this shadowy world of birth tourism, which were recently raided by federal authorities. It puts those mothers and families in the hands of very unsavory criminal elements in many cases, and we should not allow this to continue. Madam President, my amendment would stop that practice, would stop those abuses, would stop encouraging those flows of illegal aliens. And I strongly encourage the Senate to directly consider this amendment, vote on it, and to adopt it as part of this very important underlying bill. And finally, Madam President, I'd ask unanimous consent to introduce as part of the record 2 letters of leading groups on immigration reform, FAIR and Eagle Forum, who are in strong support of this measure. I'll be introducing additional such letters of support as they develop over the next day or two. But I ask that these 2 letters now be submitted as part of the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President, and I yield.